That's what makes the difference in the difference. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Sir. Council, anyone else? Not put anybody else on, but I don't want to forget anybody.
I would just like to say also on behalf of the council, we're just very appreciative of your many years of service in law enforcement overall, and save the best for last. So thank you for coming here and stuff.
I would like to tell you that in my short time on council, it's been great seeing the work that you do here as a private citizen. And someone's got that capability. I can say that we're proud to have you. I'm proud to have had you here as an officer. Your character, your qualities as a human being show. Thank you.
I was just from the town people. We're appreciative, bro.
Now that you're retired, can we play golf?
I will say personally, that man is somebody's father. Hey, do a company father, my teenager. I think we're a lot of work with it. I don't have a lot of words, but I've met a lot of people that's done, are sitting here right now, I appreciate it. It's helped out a lot. Helped me grow in this town, helped me to, be the officer I could be here in this town, to help, serve you. It's been my honor, and a pleasure. To serve here. It really has. So a couple more things. This is your official, so his official retirement will be at the end of the month, but his last work day will be Friday. So this is your retirement ID. You still have your badge and your other ID until Friday. Badge and wallet hasn't come in yet for some reason, but as soon as it gets here, I will make sure that I send it to you. Okay? And I think for the first time, council and the police department has retired one of our officers with their duty weapon. And I thought that it was significant that you have the ability to retire with your duty weapon as a memento from the town of Scottsville, from the town police department. And I just want to give this to you. And thank you, council, for allowing me to do this. I appreciate it. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you. Al.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item number 7. We talked about, in this last work session, establishing a change in the dates and the times of our meetings. There were some good points made in both directions. We can discuss this some more now. I will start discussion by saying that I like it the way it is, but I certainly appreciate some of the thoughts and ideas that were made last week. I like Mr. Payne's idea of having a week in between the work session and the council meeting. And for me, either Monday or Tuesday, 2nd and 4th, works fine. I do still think that it should not be before 7 o'clock because most people don't get home. Can't get home from work, especially with the traffic light at Red Hill Road now. Get changed, grab a bite to eat. If there's something like tonight where they want to be here for a meeting, for a public hearing. So that's just my thoughts. So I'll just open it up for discussion.
Can we table that just one more time? And it doesn't seem like we have consensus, and I don't know if we want to take up a lot of time trying to go through this
You'd like to
tonight.
make a motion?
Well, I like the motion that we table this till next month and
Okay, we'll talk about it
for
next
the
one.
final time.
Okay.
because- And see if we could come up with some sort of consensus about the time, date, time.
Then move to second that we put this on hold and talk about it more at our next work session, and then we can vote on it the week after that. So, any discussion on that?
So that's great.
Okay, good. We have a, Mr. Voice vote, all in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? Okay, thank you. So, want to do the same thing with committee?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the government services recommendation for provision. We've been over this a few times, I think, as is.
Good. You want to make a motion?
I motion that we approve this
Well,
committee.
we talked about it in the last work session.
Yeah.
Mhm. Is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think the way it's worded for the resignation should be changed.
We're not talking about that yet. We're talking about the charges and responsibilities.
Oh, sorry.
It's the general, the one that has a special purpose committee is about.
Okay.
The only thing we looked at is the committees, yeah.
I don't want to cut off council. The copy there is edited to, Melanie shared what you guys discussed last meeting.
Yep.
And that is a revised version from last meeting. I just want to make
But
sure.
it was only one small change.
Yeah, it was just that VDOT change.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
You mind repeating that, Javier, because I was not listening to the.
So Melanie shared the changes you guys wanted on the committee charges and responsibilities. And that document that's in your hand reflects those comments you guys provided last week when I wasn't here. To
Okay,
point, essentially, it's just making sure it says February 2024 at the top, since it's this month, and then taking out VDOT, which was a point you guys
Yeah.
made.
That was the only one.
Okay. Any other discussions? And let's do this by roll call vote.
Alex Sefett,
Yes.
Mayor Bristow,
Yes.
Meredith is not present. Mr. Heisen.
Yes.
Any more?
yes,
And Evan.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We'll get ready to open our first public.
Well, no, now we should do this one. Should do this. This is the second. Yeah, I motion we pass this we changed that slightly too, just to take out the fact that it was writing only, not verbal, the resignation.
Policy.
Yeah.
Is that the one you had a question on?
Yeah, this one I think we should change. I do not. I
Well,
think it's.
what would you,
Uh,
we changed it last meeting.
we didn't, first of all, we didn't have a second to it.
Okay, well, I have motion that we do it as needed, but we can look at edits. I motion that we approve this, I should say.
we had a competing one. Oh, well, is there a second?
Well, I'll second it. If you don't have any discussion.
Now we can discuss.
So what I was gonna say is, I think so. I would add, so when it says, when a board or commission member declares their resignation, it should be a letter or email. Will be deemed accepted immediately, and therefore the resigned person will not participate in the committee's activities. I think that's an inaccurate statement. I think it should say something like the person resigning should specify when their resignation will take effect in the letter. And the reason is that a lot of times people will move, or people will say, hey, my job has changed or something. I do think we should have something in there that clarifies the person is saying, because that's more common. So there should be, the person should tell us. And then once that has happened, then we know whatever date that is.
Well, we talked about a little bit of leeway to give people time to think about it. And if somebody wanted to discuss with that person, please don't leave, reconsider. It's in the heat of the moment. Give them a few days to kind of calm down if it's that kind of situation. not what you
Yes.
described.
Right.
And this doesn't allow for that. We had a competing version from the town administrator. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, but.
There was a version.
It's very similar to this, and the only difference
I think
was,
it was longer than this.
the only difference was it went to a vote. And we recommended not having a vote because it would delay things.
Well, I think that what this stemmed from was somebody resigning and then
Right.
coming back. I think that if we're gonna amend this, we should also, make it clear that, because we're looking for people when somebody resigns.
Right,
And we start putting out feelers that
right.
people that are applying to do that. So I think that it should be equally, if they want to change their mind, build a contingency for that, but also. We start looking for people and they've already resigned or given a resignation. I don't think we should, pull that back from them.
I don't disagree with that. But the last one, and correct me if I'm wrong, Javier, said something to the effect that the town administrator will, receive it and then in a timely fashion inform the council. Once the council, I think at that point had voted on it, which I didn't agree with. I think it should be immediately. But it did leave our town administrator a few days to make sure that this is all in order and that everything is correct and that the person is aware of what this means, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with you. Once it's in and accepted though, that's it.
Well, there's
So-
no provision, I guess I would say, so there's kind of like two situations. One, we were talking about. It's no secret, there are no lack of emotions as a town as we're going through issues. And there were lots of emotions, so there's really one sense of it as a protection to make sure people aren't doing anything rash on both sides.
Right,
The other one is, it's actually more common that people will
Right.
say, I have to, my job changed, I'm gonna move in 3 months. So if somebody says I'm gonna move in 3 months, the way this is written, they have to step down immediately,
Right.
which is wrong. We can't agree to the way this is worded, we can't agree to this tonight, but we should make some adjustments to it. And most of it, the rest of it, I think it's fine.
yeah, I think with some minor edits, it would be fine, but the way it is now doesn't really address either of these scenarios very well, I think. I understand though, I think it's a good, for expediency's sake, you want to move this along and you don't want to hold up the process, and I agree with that.
If we do take this down, it's make sure that devote a lot of time to it, the work session. And get something we can agree on, or that we can at least, pursue, because I think.
Well, we
Oh,
did
that's
talk
right.
about it
Yeah.
some at the last work session, but yeah,
But it's been in front of us for a while.
Yes.
Yes, it has. I
so
think
let's finalize, can we,
what we changed last time was that it wasn't verbal, it had to be written, so that's the main thing we had. But
and I think that's a big improvement, that it should be written.
I don't know if we want to, I guess we could look at a time frame within 2 days or 1 week, to give them time to change their mind, but.
We'll do some edits. I mean, my suggestion is, let's put it to the work session next time, we'll do some edits on it.
And maybe what we should do is submit our issues and so that it can be edited. Do it once through before we get to work session, come up with a new draft that addresses those issues so that we can finalize it and vote on it and be done with it.
Yep, sure. If we can change it a little bit.
Formally withdraw your motion. Pending.
That
work on it.
I motion that we approve it at the next meeting. Whatever we come up with.
Well, no, we may have issues next meeting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah, we can't make a
do that.
motion like
Alright.
that.
You either have to vote on it with your current motion, or you have to.
Withdraw.
repeal your-
Oh.
Rescind your motion.
Well, I guess I could withdraw.
Okay, so the motion is withdrawn. We'll work on it at the next work session and hope to vote on it at the next regular meeting. Thank you. All right. We're gonna open the public hearing here on the zoning text. And the powers that were back in the 90s, as most of you know, made an error when they placed several claims in both by right and special use permit. And it's not come up before where we needed to define which goes where. So I'm gonna open the public hearing and everyone's welcome to speak, just gotta keep it straight and to the point and just remind you that this is about the text amendment for any social club, fire department, or what was the other rescue squad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is not a specific social club we're talking about tonight. That will come up later if it goes towards such special use permit. If we vote tonight that it goes by right, then that's it. It's by right. So this is just your thoughts on whether any type of social club should be allowed in the commercial district, any type of fire department or rescue squad in the commercial district. So the public hearing is open. If you wish to speak, come up and state your name. And just try to keep it as brief as possible because we have followed this a couple of times before.
Does seem like we've covered this a few times. Nancy Schlichting, and I am here speaking on behalf of the Riviera Club on the Horseshoe Bend. And I understand that the picture should be big, and that's exactly where I think it should be. But I do want to just say, for just a moment, that the club, as would any, I'm assuming, other organization that falls within this category we're talking about, would presumably be following the local, state, and federal laws, and we are in fact doing that. The club is trying to be a positive force, philanthropic, and I think it's significant to mention for the big picture that at the planning meeting, they had asked Chief Jenkins to comment on whether he had any concerns about clubs, this particular club, or any clubs or lodges or fraternities that were in town, and he said he absolutely did not. And I'm sure that he would be happy to elaborate on that. But I think that it is a significant point that he has no concerns about this or any other club being allowed to proceed. And obviously, we're asking that it be done by right. From the big picture, well, I think it's also important to think about what a special use permit is for. A special use permit is to allow other compatible types of uses within a particular zoning district. And in other words, a non-conforming use. What we're talking about here is a group of organizations that are actually conforming with the commercial district in which we're talking about here. So an example of a special use permit is where, for instance, the zoning authority would allow a business to operate in an area that it would not normally be allowed to operate in because of the way that the district is zoned. And that's not the case in this instance. Clubs, lodges, civic organizations, they would be conforming with the zoning district that we're talking about in this case. There is the big picture is important in Scottsville. There are a lot of empty storefronts. I mean, there's a lot of activity that could come to Scottsville. I think that it's always good for a big place to be bustling, for it to be full, for people to be drawn here, for people to feel like it's a place that it promotes business and that is encouraging businesses. If you require a club, a civic organization, fraternity, or lodge to be subjected to a special use permit process, it's going to have a chilling effect, I think, on them. You want to encourage these organizations. So I think it's very important to keep that big picture in mind. Things need to happen in Scottsville. It's good for these storefronts to be occupied. And especially when you have organizations that by definition are really civic minded, like the Riviera Club is, and it wants to promote business and positive things happening here. They promote commerce. And frankly, the special use permit does have process has somewhat of a subjective view to it that should be irrelevant when you're looking at the big picture, and what you're trying to do is to allow law-abiding organizations to come into Scottsville and operate. So we would submit that this town council should vote to amend its ordinance in order to eliminate the categories of the clubs, lodges, fraternities, and patriotic organizations to be fall only within the by right provision and to be stricken from the provision that requires a special use permit. We appreciate the town council's time on this. It has been a long process. It started in September. And I realize there's been a weather delay and a few other things, but it really needs to move forward, and we appreciate your time on this.
No, we thank you for speaking. If the people that put the book together back in '94 or whatever it was, had proofreaders, we might not be doing this right now, but see, because they call for a special use permit for a club in rural areas, village residential and residential areas. Commercial areas, and they work both ways, which is, we can rectify that here in a few minutes.
Well, it sometimes happens when you try to piece together or use other
Yeah.
jurisdictions, and it happens all the time, but I think this is the time to fix it. And I know that the view and focus of this town council has been very positive for commerce and businesses and organizations to operate. I mean, I know I'm in the leadership of the soccer organization, so I appreciate your comment, and I am going to call them. Because it's very important to us that we be able to utilize every square inch of those fields.
That side of the field was, you couldn't even walk across it, much less play soccer.
Exactly, but that club, these club, all organizations are drawing people to Scottsville and using the gas stations and the restaurants and all of that. It's very important, I think, for you to maintain that positive and open and friendly to business frame of mind.
I think you make some very good points, and anyone else in the audience wish to speak? No, hearing no one else does wish to address the council, I will close the public hearing and we will open it up for discussion up here.
Mr. Mayor, it's probably appropriate at this point to say that in the planning commission meeting, the planning commission recommended the by right use. So that was the recommendation of the planning commission after pretty robust conversation, talking it through. Thought, and Mr. Bowling, our town attorney, spoke pretty clearly, making a point that if we were going to have a special use, it has to be pretty defined. He didn't say it was prescriptive that it couldn't be, but I would say that the recommendation of the planning commission seems pretty sound.
Any other discussion before we ask for a motion? Are we considering all three entities with this one motion, or just social clubs, and then do we vote on the other two?
Separate.
Have to do each
Yeah.
one separately? Okay, so right now we're just talking about social clubs, not fire departments and rescue squads.
I just have some reservations about how we. I think Meredith brought this up before. Is there a way that you can have a little bit of a say in what goes on in these organizations? With all due respect, especially to you, ma'am, I have asked 3 times for description or some kind of information on this particular club, and I know we're talking in general, but I have not received anything. So that leaves me with a little bit of hesitancy on approving such a thing, especially in a commercial district. So that's
Okay.
my only concern.
And on the other side of the coin, I requested a special tour and was given a special tour with all the plans that have been made up to that point. Had you requested that, they would have accommodated you too, I'm sure.
I thought the paperwork would have been easier, but
Hey, you want to know what goes on there, you can see it from the ground up, every paint stroke, so.
I think just to follow up, was that through us or was it to them?
no, at the meeting, I asked specifically, it's on camera, I'm sure. And I was assured several times that I would get the documentation.
I sent it.
You sent it?
Statement. Javier has all that information. I didn't know that I was supposed to.
Well, the last time you came up, you did say to me, I will make sure I will get that in your hand. So that's all the information I had.
So you're saying that, Javier, do you have that then, that information?
If she could resend it, because I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's in my inbox. I would have,
Let's address that question after the vote.
yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, just one sense, there is a sense where it's relevant just to say that if Eileen asked for it.
Again, so we're not talking about any specific club, we're talking about clubs in general.
Zoning. text.
Some guy who walks in off
Yeah.
the street tomorrow and says, I'm gonna put a club in the old Dollar General next door. Is it gonna be a special use or is it gonna be by right? It's not, this has nothing to do directly.
And
Right.
a club and a
With
social
approving
club are two
the
different
Riviera
things,
Club.
and a social club is already regulated by the state and by the county. And the ordinance already includes what the social club is defined as. Additionally, if you look at Charlottesville, where you guys already are on the record as a piecing, when Charlottesville addressed some of the contradictions, they removed the special use permit. Furthermore, when Charlottesville, as you pointed out, Mr. Mayor, there are different sections for rural areas and so forth, but we are in a commercial section, and it, as I pointed out to Javier when I came to him in November after he had this for 2 months. If you follow the pieces that say refer to this section, refer to that section, refer to this section. The only special use permit that applies to a nonprofit organization in the town of Scottsville is if we were doing anything that would impede traffic or require a more superior police force. Now, you guys have had it for 6 months, and for 4 months, at least most of you have known about it, and would have been able to research this information on your own. Because it is a matter of public record. Jim had said on record that you guys cut and pasted it from Charlottesville, everybody knew that. When we were in the planning commission and they asked us, why did this go out of order and go to town council instead of the planning commission? It was addressed at that time, Javier had put the thing off for 2 months, and that went out of order. All the information has been asked, we have been present for every meeting, we have answered the information, we have provided. the
We
information.
understand that and the public hearing is closed. So thank you for your comments. We need to vote.
I motion that we approve the social club by right.
Is there a second?
Second,
And is there any more discussion?
I'm just curious as to why in general, social clubs, fire departments and rescues were the only 3 categories. I mean, I could come up with something, you really have to vote on, but like I don't know.
And when we were, I don't know either, when we were reviewing it, that's, maybe to come back to our town staff, but there were 3 different categories of things that they thought that the code seemed to be in conflict. Is that correct to say it that way?
I can't figure out the rhyme or reason to both of your points, why there was 3 different items that had that double up between. I just don't really know. After talking about it, and
We're gonna fix that here.
Javier, it may have been, going back to what Council Schlichting said before, that just, it was an overlap of these piecemeal things coming together, and that may have been where they overlapped, so that's what we're correcting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Well, I like the idea of filling up empty buildings and doing that quickly. And I think it adds to having a vibrant community to have not have the empty buildings. And I don't care what's in there, if it's acceptable, it's a social club. And we got some empty buildings, and I'd rather have a social club in there than an empty building. So I'm all for filling these buildings, and socializing is so important, this day and age. It's so important.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
One other thing, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say just as a point, that this is more of a point of philosophy, and I think generally speaking, it's wiser for us to allow more freedom than less freedom, so to speak, and to make sure we have things that operate within the law, which they do, as we've talked about before, how it's been viewed at by our town police, and there is always a risk of we humans, as we gather, anything can happen when we do that as humans, but at the same time, the freedom to have the opportunity to gather and to be together, I think it's a good thing. And I think it's wise for us to go to the less restrictive option unless there's a compelling reason to go. And I think I hear your concern and I think they're valid. I just don't see a compelling reason to go to that higher level. And so in the lack of a much stronger reason, I think I would like to err that people have more freedom.
So I'll call for the vote in just a moment. I will ask Councilman Bissett to use his own good judgment as to whether he votes or abstains. And I like the idea of a social club. I was for the special use permit until our attorney last week gave us all the pitfalls for use special use. I'm now on the by right side. But I'll ask the clerk to call the roll for the vote. This is changing the text amendment to say that social clubs in the commercial district are allowed by right.
Alex Bissett,
Abstention.
Dan Gritzo,
Yes.
Meredith President, Bill Heisen.
Yes.
Eileen Morris.
With reservations and with due respect to the folks here, yes.
And Payne.
Yes.
Motion passes. So, enjoy. I'll just ask you to think about joining the Chamber of Commerce. Where are you gonna start?
I wish I had it beforehand. I was really on the fence and it could have gone either way tonight for that.
Let's see. Oh.
It's okay. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say, oh, man. Always good to see you. Oh, yeah.
Good night.
You know, Mama's working me hard these days.
Hey, Mr. Sonny.
Hello, my name's Colin.
Hey.
Party on.
You get on through it, okay? You get
Oh, I'm
on.
gonna get on that. I may have to call you about the specifics of that drain stoppage.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible, so if you want to meet anywhere around town, just give me a shout.
Thank you.
Good night.
So now we need the motion, for special use permit or a right for the fire department.
I move that we have a special use permit for the fire department.
And can we do low rescue squad at the same time? Does that have to be?
Well,
Yeah, that can all be.
all that together.
Okay, so is there a second? Moved to second, discussion on making fire departments and rescue squads in the commercial district by special use permit.
So just so I say, so the planning commission recommended special use, and the reason it was special use, basically, that is a fairly significant, very unusual thing to be there. Not at all against them, very much supportive of them, but just wanting to make sure that people had the ability to have those things happen, but doing it by special use.
Now, is our fire department currently in the commercial district?
No.
No.
It's in town limits.
When
It's
we
in
have
town
second
limits.
station.
It's in town limits and zone public.
Okay.
Public use. Start thinking about the second.
The thing is, aren't fire departments and rescue squad, aren't they, public services? They're public services, right? So who's gonna be paying for, special use permit for, it'd be us paying, it would be the town paying. So I think I just think by right, if they could fit a fire, we used to have below here, there used to be the.
The
was it
fire
department?
department, yeah.
So I just think it should be by right, but I don't think it'll ever happen unless the dollar store opened up or something.
So I wish Tim was still here because the fire, you can answer this. Our fire department is a volunteer organization. It's an independent. It's not run by the town. It's not run by the county. It's run by a private group of citizens.
That's the way I understand it, for now.
if it was up out of town, it wouldn't be a question. If we wanted to build a new
Right.
fire department down here somewhere, that would be a town decision. Certainly have public hearings and all that, but this is again, it's a private organization, just like the rescue squad was a private organization. And for a private organization to do something in the commercial district that wasn't commercial, needs special use permit.
And I wish I knew when this ordinance, was written like this, because I seem to recollect, the fire department was down here, and then it was down here, and then it's up there, the rescue squad was down here, then over there, so I think there was a lot going on, moving around, so I'm sure this came up when all that happened.
The point is, it'd probably never be a rescue squad or a fire department down in a commercial district.
Which leads me to say, why can't we just strike that?
Yeah, can we just strike it?
Can we just,
The commercial district that it's worried about, isn't it the historical overlay? If it's in the historical district, then it was special use if it was outside of the historical section, but still in town limits, then it was by right.
it could be either, historic, non-historic.
Would you think that's the appropriate thing would make it drive right? Both of them?
I would think.
Can we just strike rescue
Well, I think we
squad
gotta
and fire
leave it in there,
departments?
just in case somebody comes up, otherwise it would be special use.
Here's a suggestion, because the other one's easy, the other one by right. Why don't we vote this one down and just talk to Mr. Bowling next time and just clarify whatever it is, because it was pretty clear when we did it, again, I'm talking about, it was
But I don't know if we should leave it up to Mr. Bowling, I mean,
The
I
thing is,
think we
if
can
we,
decide.
if we don't, we've had a public hearing, we have
Right,
had our public hearing.
right. We need to
If
vote.
we need to vote on it one way or the other, and we can't just put it on hold, because then we have to advertise for another public hearing.
Yeah, let's not do that.
The one thing I'd say against by right again is that means if they want to put it next to somebody's house, like that, there should be, the citizen should have an opportunity to talk and.
I think if they really need to relocate next to your house, whether it was by right or not, you're gonna have an uproar from the neighborhood, and you're gonna have 100 people in here like we've had before, and it would get voted down.
I dare say, if we vote on this and it passes, we'll never use it.
Yeah, I
No.
agree, it's kind of.
It-
Never say never.
It's-
20 years later, they'll be saying, why did that council allow this in here?
Just to clean up things, I think you ought to vote by right
I do
and
too.
just let it go.
I agree.
And then some future council will have to deal with it if a question comes up.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a motion.
Sorry, council, eliminating any
What is it?
Oh, sorry, council, but eliminating any ambiguity would help, period. I think you
Yeah.
guys are coming towards that.
My suggestion is we vote for fire departments and rescue squads by right in the commercial district and not worry about it.
He's got a motion on the table.
What is your motion?
Well, mine was just, Javier, let me go back to you. It was a recommendation from you, I think, to do special use anyways.
Special use for me was similar to what Ron, I think, said, where it's like, we might want to have a little bit of oversight over some details about it. So I was more cautious on that end with a rescue squad. Now, I do agree, and we kind of joked about it even, like, I'm not even sure anybody would want to put
Yeah.
in current commercial district, a rescue squad or a fire department, but also this was just part of the stuff that I found was pretty ambiguous in chapter 11 when we started off first with discussions about social clubs. So I agree with, well, to clarify for Dan, staff recommendation was an SUP. But I think a lack of ambiguity always helps, because I sense some frustration, but I was correctly interpreting our zoning law, and it led to this. There was some delays in regards to properly public notice, but to the point, if we didn't have any ambiguity, this would have moved forward administratively pretty straightforward, rather than me having to cross every I or cross every T, dot every I. You understood me, Bill. So that's kind of how I weigh both of them. My gut feeling with this is SUP for the reason that I think there's a lot of questions you guys might have. But if it were us, say we were big enough and we wanted to have not a volunteer, but something dedicated under the town, you would just waive your own SUP fee since it's be us. And then I'm sure if we ever came up with something, we'd probably want to actually just rezone the parcel into public to make it easier. But that's us now really getting into hypothetical rather than a zoning text amendment.
Yeah, so what's the motion?
Well, I made the motion, I still stand by the motion, I think the SUP is a better way to go, I think, and I also think that it protects. That it was the recommendation of the planning, I mean, it wasn't just me, it was the whole planning commission. And I think we had, it was the advice of the town council, I mean, the town administrator, because it's more protective if we, again, it's all hypothetical, do we think
Yeah.
it's gonna happen? No, but this one, we opted for special use.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to make fire departments and rescue squads need a special use permit to relocate into the historical commercial district. Any other discussion?
Well, I just think it's to clean it up, just to keep it by right. If we needed it, it would happen. And I think that would be the way to go. I don't think if you're gonna get a rescue squad, if I was working on a fire department and I had to, you have a special use permit, I would pull it right away, and this is a public service, so I just think by right would be the way to go.
Mr. Mayor, just to follow up one thing. One thing I think is really clear, we do not have to vote tonight, like, what.
No, that's stupid.
In fact, I would actually move to remove it, because I'd rather talk to the bowling about it again, because again, to me, I don't have to me, I don't have a skin in the game, I just know it's been supported by a number of people, I think we're trying to deal with this too quickly, I'd rather get his advice again. And
Yeah.
Do we re-advertise for the public hearing?
no, we've had the public hearing, we can vote whenever we want to vote, we can vote a month from now, a year from now, but once the public.
No, I thought
hearing-
there was a time limit on it.
There's
It might be like a 60-90 day, but the timetable we're talking about, it would be next month. I'd have enough time to talk with Jim and you guys can talk during the work session and then see if we can get something done during the March.
yeah, you don't have to vote as soon as you can get.
I think it's kind of,
I withdraw my motion.
You know, Alex has something.
yeah, it's just kind of a cool thing, and we get a chance to kind of support whoever is in council in the future, and to make it easy on them, with whatever we come up with, I think it's probably wise to talk to council. See what they-
The legal counsel you're talking? Yeah, okay. So you're gonna withdraw your,
I withdraw.
So with you withdrawing your motion, that opens up the floor for a new motion. Any new motions?
Do you want to go to the other one? Is that what you're, there's the third one?
If somebody wanted to,
So I would like to make a motion that we buy right the other one.
What's the other one?
The other one is about what's it called? No,
Rescue squad?
no.
Fire department?
Dry cleaners and laundromats.
Right, so buy
Buy right,
I'm just
Sure.
giving the recommendation.
Yeah,
of the
I
planning
think that's a good
commission.
idea. That's commercial.
Yeah.
So one last detail. So for dry cleaners, the recommendation, as Dan said, was planning commission recommendation was special use permit.
No, it was by right. It was by.
It was by right, and then what was it? Strike through the need for an attendant.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to consider that. So currently our zoning law, this is, I don't think this has come up since last meeting for planning commission, and I don't know if it's come up to town council, but planning commission noticed that in our commercial zoning, laundromats have lines that request an attendant.
I see.
And they said, why don't we just strike that out?
Strike that.
Yeah,
So what we're approving is the amendment with the strikeout.
it would be essentially, it's a strikeout motion.
Yeah.
One way or another, you strike out your SUP if you want to buy right, you strike out your.
It's by right attendant not required.
Yeah, so the easiest thing would be a motion stating you want it to be by right, and then strike through the need for an attendant. And that would make it the easiest for me writing
So
up.
can you reword your
that-
motion?
I will have that motion, which will just.
You will reword your motion to
Attendance is.
strike through the attendant required and have those businesses by right in the commercial district, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I second.
I think there's any more discussion on this. All for the vote.
Bill, you have to be seated according to Virginia law to
Is that right?
vote. Yes, sir.
About what? About what?
You have to be
Anything.
seated to conduct
You
town
have to be
business.
seated.
After we vote, you can stand
Oh,
up.
okay. Oh, we're voting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Motion and second, yes, we're voting.
Alex Bissett,
Yes.
Dan Gritsko,
Yes.
Bill Heisen.
Yes.
Emily Moore.
Yes.
And Edward
Yes.
Passes.
Always the rebel over here.
I'll be right behind him.
So we move on to public hearing. Ordinance of recodification of the town code. I will open the public hearing. No one wishing to speak, will close the public hearing. And all that is saying that that new big book that we got with all the faults and all the corrections and all the faults that are still there. We're
We're gonna approve it. Okay.
Paperweight.
I motion that we approve the
recodification.
recodification of the town code.
Any further discussion on that?
Sorry, who seconded?
Alex.
The only thing is,
And this is as amended, right?
has anybody ever read any of it?
You
read it?
Right to sleep. There's some interesting things in there. Lots of really cool things, because I didn't know about the SUPs in these other areas for social clubs until I started reading.
Yeah.
What a good amount.
So we,
Yeah, well, I guess we're just trusting that it's done right.
So move and second.
we spent a lot of staff time between Civic Plus, Jim,
Right.
E and Matt,
Yeah.
reviewing it and going over it. So there can't be any change that isn't, it's very magisterial, just updating old VA code. So I understand your concern, but we've discussed it multiple times and I've asked Jim to also share that with council. Cause I want to be clear what a recodification is, for you guys while you're voting.
So any other discussion?
Nope.
Call for the vote.
Alex,
Yes.
Dan Gritsko,
Yes.
Meredith was not present. Bill Heisen.
Yes.
Emily Morris
Yes.
and everything.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and the last item, we talked about these three areas where we need to make appropriations at the work session, but we're not gonna vote on that tonight because we have to have a public hearing on that also. So I need a motion to call for a public hearing on those three items for the next month's council meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, gosh, I think we can finish this early. Anybody got anything on their mind?
Well, this, on that last one, I do think we need to know what, get the budget in order, the budget, we got outstanding bills and we're not, and some people are not paying us. And if we don't know the surplus, I don't think we should do any of this unless we really have a understanding of how much money we have. If we're gonna approve some of these, special consideration for these appropriations. So anyway, I hope we're gonna find out that exactly when we get closer to the budget, how much we hit. Last year, we had $7,000. And we had to cut a lot of things to even get that. And I don't think we should approve anything and then have to cut things in a few months.
Yeah, let's, before we leave, let's ask Jack to tell us a little bit about this national weather thing that we.
Yeah.
All right, so we got selected by all national registrars in Virginia, since Scottsville has 3 offices. You got Wakefield that covers east side of town Scottsville. You got Blacksburg that covers the entire James from Roanoke up to here. And right now where we're at, right, this building is in the DC area. So between all three of them, we've been selected to be a weather ambassador for all NOAA National Association Offices, National Hurricane Center, Weather Prediction, all those folks to be recognized as ambassador for national weather preparedness as a town of Scottsville. And so we get to use more graphics, and we've been recognized as that through all the three national offices.
We appreciate all your hard work and getting.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to get assigned, we didn't qualify for Storm Ready, that's for like Fairfax, big cities, like 1 million people, so we were on that threshold.
It's pretty neat.
The big time.
Big time.
Scottsville's hit the big time.
They want equipment here or anything?
We're working on, getting weather camera and weather stations so they can see what's happening down here, so they don't have to send folks from DC.
Yeah. Can we get
And
our own,
trying
can we get our own Doppler radar?
$20 right there, town won't have a budget for that.
Jack, your job is to keep our weather in Scottsville warm.
You're my favorite weatherman.
Good job.
I've thanked him already for sending the snow away.
So basically, what we want to do with the weather camera, if I have enough time, is to make sure we have a 360 view, so it can go up and down the river with it, the joystick. And also we can use it to zoom in over any issues with that, Chief Jenkins wants, or we can, NBC 29 reached out and say they want feed out. So I'm looking at different options. The one that I have is what UVA has, is quite expensive, but they are based out of Florida and they really want one down here.
The telemedicine and UVA ladies I met with this morning, I gave them John's contact information up at the shopping center. Because when they made the Rite Aid, you know, they divided that store in half, so he's got an empty space.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a good place.
That's a great place.
So they've got his contact, they're gonna get in touch with him.
Excellent. That's excellent.
All right, anything else? Thank you all,
Nope.
appreciate it.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Hey, go to bed, you look feel.
Anything going in there?
I don't know, I didn't realize you probably.
That's all I can do.
Hey, we talked about the crowd game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Because I think.
No, you gotta go down.
Commercial or dry cleaning, that's a
we get down here early every time. Oh,
Getting better, Eddie.
Shop is, oh, really, you know.